Groupthink Podcast. Joining us today is a religious and political commentator from YouTube who has worked with PJTV and now runs his own channel. His name is Alfonzo Rachel. How's it going, man?
I am groovy, man. Did you just call me a religious commentator?
Is that too formal?
And you know, the funny thing is, man, it's not like there's another word for it because, you know, as a Christian, man, I'm not a religious person at all. I serve, the Most High Priest and King Yeshua, who is the actual freedom, who is the original Freedom from Religion Foundation. And so that means he's the original. So that being said, I'm not a religious person, but I get it. I'm just yanking your chain. Even though I'm not a religious person, I'll cut you some slack, bro. I'll cut you some slack.
Yet he runs one of the most what's the word? Sorry, I'm already forgetting how words work. This isn't going well.
I know, right? He's one of the most. I'm not a very good thesaurus for you, man. I'm not a good thesaurus, man. You're on your own, bro.
He's one of the most dedicated Christian channels I know. So that's what I was trying to say, but
I'll take it, man. Nice one.
Sure.
Thank you.
So I thought it might be kind of fun to go over your history real quick because I'm mostly familiar with you from the PJTV days. So could you kind of explain how you got started on YouTube and like what you would describe your ministry as?
And the funny thing was, man, when I started on YouTube, actually just before I started on YouTube, I had become a Christian. So it's funny because I guess it was part of my ministry. And really quick, man, my mom used to bug me, man. It used to get on my nerves. I want to see you playing drums in the church. And I said, Mom, I don't want to play drums in the church. I don't want to be a Jesus freaking dork. Okay. I was like, I'm like, I hate church music. I was so mean, bro. And, and she begged me, she just begged me to play drums in the church. Right. So finally I went down, man, and I played drums. And, one of the members of the, church, he said something and it was just strange, but at the same time, it made sense to me. He says, man, I really appreciate your ministry. And I was like, I didn't say anything. He's like, you're drumming, man. Even in your drumming is a ministry. You know, you're helping to set, to set the tone, to set the atmosphere, so to speak. You know, even with you drumming, it was speaking. And so, I'm probably butchering what it is that he was trying to tell me. Because at the time, like I said, it didn't make sense to me. And what I'm saying right now probably doesn't make sense to some people. And I sympathize because that's what it was like. But at any rate, I was more into promoting conservatism, and me being a musician, I wanted to use music as a means to promote, the conservative message. The thing is that most musicians and artists are typically liberal, and these tolerant and accepting liberals that I'd be jamming with would get mad if I question their worldview. Because I'm here in California, man. I'm black. I'm in California. I'm a musician. All that formula adds up to being a liberal. But at the same time, I'm like, something's not right, man. Something's not right. And I would question, these certain ideas. And they would get mad, and they would even, start throwing out, the racially charged things, say, oh, man, you think that you're a black Republican and stuff like that. It's like, oh, okay. I didn't know that I was genetically predisposed to be something else. But, but if that's what, whatever it is, whatever. So but I figure, you know what, man, I'm not going to be able to do this, with music. I can do it with music. I just can't do it with a band. So I just set up a camera. I was teaching martial arts at the time. And I just set up a camera and I started recording stuff and I would upload them on MySpace. This was like back in 2007. And then on MySpace, I just started getting a following. And then somebody says, hey, man, you should load this stuff up on YouTube. And so I did like a parody skit. I was like, wow, YouTube. Okay. I did like a parody skit on Star Wars. And it went viral. And, started getting the attention of some people like in Hollywood, people like Gary Sinise. Reached out to me and stuff like that, and recommended me to a channel called PJTV, and PJTV was watching my numbers and stuff like that, and like this guy's like on YouTube and he's taking a conservative message and he's going viral with it just by ranting into a camera, and like we want him, So and from there I became part of PJTV for about 8 years.
Well, there you go. Who was there at that point?
Oh man, we had Bill Whittle. Bill Whittle was pretty much the guy who I talked to the most about coming into PJTV. So Bill Whittle was there. Andrew Clavin, He was there. It was ran by Roger Simon, and he's a comedic writer and a script writer. We had Alfonzo Schmidt, who used to be the writer for the Arsenio Hall show. So we had cats like that. So Crowder was there for a minute. He was there for a little bit. So yeah.
Yeah, going back and seeing some of that stuff now, you kind of see like it's all like the prototype stuff of where everyone is now. But...
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, I guess it was a rather pioneering venture. It was and now I'm glad to see that there are other. That's because that's what we need. Man. It can't just be like this one spot. I mean, it was nice to be the spot on the block, but we need more of it. And I'm talking about a healthy kind of competition, the kind of thing where, there's other venues that are doing it and they've got something to offer. And as long as we can maintain camaraderie over competition, and make sure that the focus is to compete for the Republic, then man, it'll be awesome.
So what was the biggest change then when you kind of moved a lot of your stuff over to your own channel when PJTV kind of went defunct?
Man, it was horrible. Because basically we saw this coming before PJ went defunct. The numbers seem to be being messed with. The YouTube channels, they would suspend views. Like if PJTV uploaded one of my videos, when they published my video, YouTube would hold it at like 301 views for up to like 48 hours. And they would give lame excuses as to why they would do it. I'm like, yeah, but you're not doing it to these other people. You're doing it like particularly to my videos. It was like my videos, they were doing it to the most frequent. And they would hold it. And what that means is that when people like see a video that's been up for like, half a day, it's just half a day. And they're looking at it and it's like only got 301 views. That is like telling them, well, this must not be interesting to watch. And they'll just move on. So they would do that to my videos and hold it for like 48 hours. And then they would release it and then it would just grow slowly. So they were already choking my brand before I even left PJTV. So by the time PJTV shut down and I went, back on my own, I couldn't grow my numbers anymore. And my subscribers, I couldn't grow my subscribers. Even today, my subscribers have stayed under 80,000 subscribers for 5 years. So since 2016, and I tried to, it stopped growing since then. But in 2016, when I really tried to get back into growing it, I'm like, there's something wrong here because I can't grow it. And not only that, the same thing was happening with Twitter. About 5 years. It's been about 30,000 followers on Twitter for about 5 years. Same thing on Facebook. About 100, it fluctuates. Like it went up to like 110,000, and then all of a sudden I lost a whole bunch of followers and it dropped down to like 100,000. And so it's been that way for like the past 5 years. I can't grow it. And not only that, I can't reach my audience. And then YouTube also demonetized my videos. They'll play ads in my videos, but then they'll tell me that I'm limited to monetization on them. So they'll use my space, but they don't want to pay me for it. So it's all sorts of crazy stuff like that.
Oh, that's lovely. I mean, nowadays YouTube is either the most glitchy website in the world with just the worst algorithms, or they're just purposely going after people. And at times, it's really hard to kind of pick which one is which.
Right. Yeah. It's one of those things where it's like, okay, you guys are going to have to admit to one of two things. You're either really like incompetent with how you're, setting these things up, or you're liars. You're or not only liars, but bigots. You guys are cowardly bigots, and you're too afraid to let this content get out there and compete with what it is that you guys are trying to brainwash people with.
It doesn't help that they just kind of bury the rules in like insanely vague terminology to the point where they can get rid of someone or throttle someone and not technically be in violation of their own rules. Because I know PragerU has been trying to sue them for like 3 years now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and right, man. And their rules, they're sketchy on their rules. Like when they would send me the so-called reasons of why they would demonetize my videos, it would be for sexually charged content, nudity, promotion of a regulated drug, excessive violence. And I'm like, have you guys even watched? That I'm serious, but I got multiple screenshots of them sending me that same response. And here's the kicker, man. They'll tell me that I'm promoting the use of a regulated drug in my videos, and then turn around and run ads for Trintellix. So like, so yeah, it's quite fishy, man.
Well, that's unique. I mean, I was gonna say that I was just watching I was going back and watching some old videos the other day, and for some reason I managed to find the one where where you have the rocket going up and down in a very suggestive way. I'm like, well, maybe it depends on the video, but
context is key, man.
Everything's on the internet forever, man.
Right? Context is key, and it's like, hey, it was a metaphorical way of saying, hey, this guy is, I guess getting excited about how he's trying to screw the world, and definitely shooting off missiles.
Metaphor in I guess the Drax the Destroyer sense, but
right, and come on, and even that, man, that's pretty PG-13, right?
Oh yeah, that's like edgelord teenager kind of humor right there. Like, you shouldn't get banned from YouTube for that.
Right.
Like, maybe you just have to put the "this is not for kids" label over the video, and that's about it. So.
And I'll tell you what, even in my video, and because speaking of which, man, they've got that thing that they're doing right now, this COPPA law. I haven't read through all the terms of this law that they're doing now, but one of the effects of it is when you go to upload a video, it's going to say something to the effect, and it's very, dare I say, for liberals, it's very black and white. It's this or that. It's very absolute. Is this video made for kids, or is it not? And I'm like, wait a minute. What do you mean, is it made for kids? You mean, and those are your choices. Is this video made for kids, or is it not? That's bizarre. So, and what I guess the repercussions of that is that if you select it's for kids, it's gonna have an effect on what's going to be advertised on your channel and stuff like that. Maybe it limits it, I don't know. And if you choose the other, you have the choice of maybe you have a broader range of who's going to advertise on your site, but it may, I don't know, limit, how many people are going to watch it, the age range and all that sort of stuff. Like I said, I admittedly, I haven't looked at all the details of it, but just on its face, I'm like, this is lame. And this is just way too litigious, man. This is just all kinds of cover your butt stuff, and at the same time sabotaging other people. But I just put a disclaimer saying, look, man, this is family friendly stuff, okay?
I haven't looked that far into the details of COPPA yet, but to my knowledge, this is like FTC regulated stuff, not internal YouTube stuff. My only concern would just be if they start throttling channels that say they're made for adults and just start promoting channels that say they're made for like kids or family viewing. I mean, it's possible that could be one, like they want to try to like game the system and start like clearing house of anything that's even close to being objectionable. But
sure,
it really just depends on how they roll it out. Because if this is just a government mandated like, you have to have this on your video as a means of like removing YouTube's compliability in something, that's fine with me. Because if it's just the way of like pawning off like liability off of YouTube, I can then, yeah, that's not gonna be the big deal. It just depends on how this ends up getting wired into YouTube's already screwy algorithm system.
Yeah, and and I don't want to sound like some sour graping conspiracy theorist or anything like that, but I can just see it where this kind of thing is, when they talk about the businesses being in bed with the bureaucracies and stuff like that, it's like somehow I'm seeing that this is going to benefit YouTube in how they're going to choose what content gets seen, what gets monetized, who's going to benefit, mainly them, and doing this with the FTC. I just don't see. I'm looking at it and I'm like, what is the benefit and what is the protection of this? It's like it doesn't make sense to me.
If I'm understanding it correctly, I think it had to do with all those issues like earlier this year and earlier last year when they were having issues with like pedophiles using the YouTube comments to like kind of traffic information. So I think part of it has to do with just kind of throttling that. However, it doesn't. I'm not exactly sure how it's going to play out. We're not going to find out really until this thing gets deployed in the next few weeks, because we've also got the what's the other one, like the non-financially viable standard that's about to go up? That's probably going to be there to clear house for a lot of YouTube channels.
Sure.
Have you heard about that?
Is that something to the effect of, like, say for instance, if I try to set the demographics, for my videos and stuff like that, I'll get a notification saying that they can't do this because it has something to do with credit phishing or housing or something like. It's just this bizarre. Like, I look at it, I'm like, okay, basically you're looking for another excuse for me to not reach out to my audience. So they send up this bizarre notification of why I can't. So I even try to, like, when people say that, hey, Zoe, you got to pay to play, man. You're going to have to pay for boosts and all that sort of stuff. And I'm like, I don't want to do that because I don't trust that they're going to, send my videos out to the demographics that I set. But I'm like, okay, you know what? Fine. I'll go ahead and I'll do it. And then when I do it and I set my demographic, whatever, they still deny me and say that, oh, it looks like you're doing some sort of credit phishing or it has something to do with housing. And I'm like, you know what? Whatever. You're just not going to let me.
There is some bad phishing stuff going on with YouTube right now, but a lot of that has to do with, like, foreign companies trying to jump in on the marketing, like the advertising stuff. But the situation that's probably going to come and bite a lot of people in the butt is that they're going to start, like, channels that have mass amounts of demonetization are going to start getting flagged as not financially viable under YouTube standards, and they're threatening to start kind of cleaning house on those. So,
yeah.
Which
but the thing is that, and I understand that some of it's it's automated and whatnot, but even when they say that you can talk to a human per se, even after that they still say no.
The human factor is almost non-existent with YouTube, because there are situations going on right now where multiple YouTube channels have gotten, like, hacked into and gotten sold off on the black market, and YouTube will not do anything until you've gotten thousands and thousands of people on Twitter to scream at the YouTube's Twitter team long enough for them to take notice of it. And so
I'm sorry, I meant Facebook. This was Facebook. Facebook does the same thing. They'll send up this weird notification saying it's credit phishing or and they say you could talk to a human, and when you do and they review the video, they still say no.
Okay. I was specifically talking about YouTube, but yeah, I'm sure Facebook is just as bad when it comes to, like, turning down people for their options.
Yeah. Rotten stuff, man. That's what we're up against.
Yeah, I mean, I let's have a happy, cheery conversation because it's almost Christmas. So, quick to go jump into this real quick. Can you tell people, like, what your channel is specifically dedicated to and what kind of shows you run?
The content is from a conservative angle, and I basically. A lot of people think that I'm a comedian, and I'm not. I'm not. It's just that liberalism itself is an ongoing joke. It's just fodder to be able. It's like once you start talking about it and you look at how absurd it is, it's like, man, it's a joke that tells itself. So, in the most minimalist way, what I do is I do commentaries that in itself kind of satirizes the left. They're just monologues, but the thing of it is to grow and be able to take these absurdities and these worldviews that they have and put them into, teleplays, situation comedies, or even, dramas or different kinds of visual genres to be able to illustrate and point to the absurdities of liberalism. And so that's what my channel is for, is basically promoting truth, number one. But the problem is that truth is just such a hard thing to sell, because the truth is what it is. And this is one of the things that I talk about a lot in my commentaries. That's one of the reasons why it seems like truth is so hard to get out there, because truth is what it is. And a lie is easy to sell because a lie is in itself a creative process. So that's why it's so easy to make entertainment based on lies. So the truth is what I'm trying to say. Okay, well, we need a creative vehicle for truth, whether it's music, whether it's movies, teleplays, flipping video games, whatever. We need to pull this stuff together and take these conservative ideas, not just conservative ideas based on what man thinks is conservative, but it has to be squared on an indelible standard. Not conservative according to what anybody thinks is conservative, but conservative really based on the word of God, because that is the thing that is indelible. It's fixed and set. So if we build on that, that's when we'll have a solid foundation to promote conservatism on. So that's where I incorporate, a lot of biblical study into my work, so we can have like this correct filter and how to basically promote conservatism and speak on it.
Sure. I mean, I'd say some of your biblical study is probably the most comprehensive stuff you've got going on your YouTube channel right now, and for the last couple of years too.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
And that's kind of what I was hoping to kind of dig into, because I like the way you can kind of go off on the Bible for better part of like 30 minutes to an hour on a time. And the topic I was kind of suggesting we talk about right now is kind of Christmas and faith and the holidays, and how you think a Christian ought to go about kind of interacting with it, because there's a lot of pressure to kind of compromise in the holidays, and either be like overly materialistic and kind of focus on that part of the holidays, or to go full Christmas vacation and just start bickering with your family. Like, what do you think is the most important thing a Christian should kind of prepare themselves going into the holidays?
Oh man. Well, the most important thing is recognizing who the Lord says He is, and using the opportunity to tell people about that. And if you're not versed or skilled in telling stories or teaching or anything like that, just let your behavior in itself. Just when they meet you, there just should be something that makes them curious. It's like this, it's that glow, just letting the Lord just shine through is really what it comes out. At the end of the day, that's what we want to do, is just, let the Lord shine through us. And that in itself speaks a lot of volumes. That's when people know us by these fruits. And because, in terms of like what should be important to somebody, all our personalities are different. I don't know if I could give a formula for that. That's why I say, as I said earlier, the Bible's got to be our foundation from there. Because, our different personalities, our different ideals, our different intellects and creativity and all that sort of stuff, there's no formula. I couldn't put a formula to that.
Sure. I mean, I was just talking to Sean Malone, who's the head of media at the Foundation for Economic Education. And I was talking to him a couple weeks ago, but before Black Friday. And I was trying to get out of him what he thinks is if there's a negative side to the consumerist side of the holiday, and I couldn't quite get him to do that because he is very, very capitalistic. I am too, but I'm curious as someone who's Christian, do you think that there's a danger in the more consumerist, materialist side of the holiday?
Man, I tell you, and that's now that right there raises a good issue, man, because I think conservatives. And I got to be careful with it too, man. I'm not trying to judge or anything, but where capitalism is concerned, I think a lot of conservatives do capitalism. Conservatives themselves do capitalism is a big disservice, and I think conservatives give liberals a lot of fodder to stigmatize capitalism, because we take capitalism to mean this commercialism, this opportunism. And, and all that matters is how much money you can make or how much money you can spend and all that sort of stuff. And I'm like, that's not what capitalism is about at all. It's none of that. I mean, it's like capitalism is this idea that, it's about making money. Socialists like to make money too. So, but with capitalism, here's the big difference. I think the thing that people miss the most about capitalism isn't about what you make or what you spend or buy or all that sort of stuff. It's material thing, this bourgeois idea that people have about capitalism. It's none of that. Capitalism is the thing that protects you from the government making a claim to what belongs to you. That's what capitalism is. These are the fruits of my labor. And by the Constitution, you don't have the right to violate my property. My income is my property. These things are my this capital that I have, it's mine. You don't have a claim to it. So at its core, that's what capitalism comes down to. And so where socialism, of course, the state owns industry and it owns, basically your income. So capitalism is distinct in that. And the thing is with capitalism, it is the safest way. We're all knuckleheaded humans, man, but it's the safest way for people to be protected from greed. Because when you have socialism and communism, these collectivist ideas, basically is when the people have relinquished their power to the state, or their power has been taken by the state to reflect the covetousness of the people, to be able to levy taxes against people, to say that, oh, we're doing it for the greater good. You know, we're going to take from you and we're going to covet your stuff for the greater good. Well, and what's the greater good? That's all arbitrary, man. Nobody's ever satisfied. We feel like we deserve more. This person should be made to pay more and all that sort of stuff. Nobody's ever satisfied with that. Well, capitalism protects us from that dissatisfaction. So, you know, when it comes to stigmatizing Christmas and the so-called commercialization of Christmas, and the capitalistic attitudes or applications towards Christmas, it's like, man, we got to get our language straight on that. So, you know, when we're looking at, you know, Black Friday comes up and all that sort of stuff, no, I don't like it that people get out there and they're just ready to shove and push and shove because they want to get the greater deal and all that sort of stuff. Well, capitalism doesn't have anything to do with that. That's not a capitalistic thing. That's not the characteristics of capitalism. Where capitalism comes in is that, okay, I've made my money, you know, and I have the right to keep it. It's mine to go and spend, you know, or whatnot. Nobody else is supposed to lay claim to it. Capitalism doesn't have anything to do with me running out in the streets and knocking people over to get you know, presents and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing, but I want to play devil's advocate because I noticed there's a tendency, especially amongst newer segments of the right, like the Tucker Carlson side of the right, that there's a growing antipathy towards capitalism, and there's a much greater sense of disdain for consumerism. I mean, I agree, but I would the credit I would give them is I think that capitalism is very, very good at giving people what they want. And we, as Christians, we understand that things people want are not good. so there is a danger to it, but I think that you're right. It does give the left an advantage there. But how do we balance that in general, and in regards to the holidays? Because now's the time of year where it's very easy to go, most grateful day of the year. Okay, time to crush a man's skull for the 70-inch.
Right. Well, you know, the thing is, man, we hadn't had capitalism since I claim to be an expert of history, man, but we hadn't had capitalism for a long time. That's the thing about it. We've had kind of like a quasi socialist system for a while. Capitalism hasn't. The only thing that's not making us fully socialist is that the state doesn't own our industries. Is really, but the thing is, man, they're regulating the industry so much that it's practically like they're taking ownership of the industries as it is. So we've been kind of going down that road for a while. Sure, we've got commercialism, but socialism, they got commercialism too. You know, they've got that also. You know, you have these places that kind of have like and even right now we've got like kind of a quasi, you know, free market. You know, we still have a free market. Free market and capitalism complement each other, but they're not exactly the same thing. Because when you have a free market and the government is still able to come in and lay claim to what that market takes in, when they're taxing, when they should be taxing outcome, but are instead taxing income, we're not really enjoying real capitalism. And worse than that, it gives way to crony capitalism, this kind of mercantilism thing, and it gets very confusing from there because it's not pure. All that to say, we still have the environment that's closest to it, but I don't know if that the capitalism element is really playing into people enjoying going out to shop. You know, and how they're and how it conducts their behavior and how they shop, how much they spend, and how they act towards each other, and all that sort of stuff. I mean, because if we really want to get down to it, before these liberals want to stigmatize capitalism, it's like you ought to see how people will run over each other in socialist economies. You know, when they're out there trying to get what they want to get, you know, when they're out in their, that collectivist economy, when they're in bread lines and stuff like that, and they're ready to, you know, do what they got to do to make sure that they can put food on their table. You know, that's a whole different thing that they're for some reason they're ignoring.
Well, fair enough, but I would say that that's more of a top-down approach in regards to capitalism. I mean, if we were in a fully socialist government, we'd all be eating Chernobyl brand bread without any sort of option in terms of what we could have. So we still have the free market, and we even though it is limited by socialism, I'd really want to cut to trying out how we as Christians can kind of figure out how to work the market, because I think that the capitalism works best when you have good people running behind it. And
that's right, man.
And at the moment we don't necessarily have that. So I mean, for this year, I didn't go to Black Friday just because I didn't want to engage in the mad rush. I did shopping online like a week before, and I just stayed in that day so I could kind of focus on family stuff. And I'm trying to think of like, how should Christians kind of try to push the envelope on this and try to think about how to engage in a way that isn't bad for them spiritually, because I can't imagine going out and spending thousands and thousands of dollars in one day it's good for you spiritually. So
well, I mean, I guess they like to go to that scripture that says it's better to give than to receive.
And I'm not saying having things is bad. I'm just saying that, I mean, I've had conversations with a theologian friend of mine in this podcast a few times before, and we've come to the same conclusion that we live in a very kind of decadent culture that tends to put our things first. So I want to try to figure out a way how we as a culture kind of refocus that and get Christians out of a lot of the bad stuff.
It takes stamina, man. It's one of those things where it takes patience, it takes stamina. It took a long time to get here. And the thing is, man, what we're doing nowadays, you know, it's not new. I mean, we've been like this, man. We just, you know, it's and that's just human behavior. I don't know if it's going to change. And that's not something that can be solved by socialism or capitalism or any policies that an official can put in. That comes down to the heart, you know, and that heart, it needs to be geared towards the Lord. You know, that's what, you know, just really quick, man. That's why God says, you got to love me. You got to love me. And that's not God being some egotist or anything like that. You know, worship me. I need your worship. It's not that. It's for our sake. Because when we get out there and we try to love people our way, we hurt people. You know, our idea of love is twisted. Even for myself, man, I'm still learning. Even trying, like, where's my wife or my family members and stuff like that, you don't want my love. My love will hurt you. I got to love you through the Lord. That's why God says, love me. Because he's the one who teaches how to love. True love, the love that's just been here, the love that sustains forever. So if they can understand that, it's like you got to love people through the filter of the Lord. That's the kind of thing where, you know, if you go out shopping, you ain't gonna have people out there going upside each other's head, you know, for a chicken sandwich and stuff like that, because you got the love of the Lord with you. And you know, and it just makes for a kinder society. And then from there, capitalism will work better. Well, by that logic, Zoe, what you should be saying is that if we love each other with the love of the Lord, then socialism should work fine too, right? Well, no, it shouldn't, because socialism itself would be instituting covetousness. Socialism would be instituting theft. Socialism would be instituting putting a God before God. So it just doesn't work. It doesn't matter how much of it, because if you're a good person, if you're a godly person, you ain't gonna want socialism anyway, because socialism is built on covetousness. It's built on selfishness. It's built on ideas that are apart from God. Whereas capitalism is not, because capitalism is not an institution of covetousness. It isn't. You can't have capitalism and have a society pointing to the rich and saying, I deserve some of what they have. Capitalism don't work that way. It doesn't lend itself to that. So, you know, it doesn't lend itself to the state having the assumed power to take from other people to redistribute somebody else and stealing from people under the guise of good intentions. Capitalism doesn't lend itself to that. Capitalism is the most complementary system to facilitate the if we want to be charitable, the goodwill of people. capitalism is going to be the best environment for that.
And I would add on the issue of socialism is that the people who are propagating it now on the intersectional left, their religious superstructure in their minds is occupied by their political ideology. So it's not like you could really it's not conducive to a Christian worldview. I mean, you can obviously you can be. I just kicked my own cable. You can be
Cable kicker.
Yeah, you can be on the left and religious, but in the end of the day, the intersectional left will always demand power, kind of move towards it, and it will ultimately it'll ultimately be in service to the ideas of abolishing capitalism, abolishing tradition, and it would not serve the Lord ultimately. And unfortunately, as it's depressing as you start seeing the edgy new writer types who aren't religious, is that you start seeing the same like kind of an authoritarian instinct in them too, because they don't have the same fear of the Lord, they don't have the same desire to kind of put their faith in God and move in that direction. So you start seeing people who believe in our side but who aren't religious, they're starting to get much more protectionistic too.
Mm-hmm. That's deep, man. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that is that definitely sums up the nature of that view.
Yeah. So in terms of pushing forward the narrative, I thought we could close on this, but tell us a little about what you do culturally in terms of how you personally try to go about spreading ministry through your writing and your music.
Well, the objective is, I tag it by saying rock the gospel is basically what I want to do. And evidently, I guess I was being pretty effective at it because I got choked. It's like, yeah, we got to shut this guy down before he does any more damage. But that's the objective, man. It's to be able to, if I may, I have a book, my book, A Solid Right Cross. I just think of it as culture war coaching from a Christian conservative artist. And the objective is, man, or what I'm explaining in this book is that we're dealing with people who, if we're talking about the left, we're not dealing with people who understand reason. If you look at everything that they believe, it's not based in reason, it's all based in imagination. So, these people who have this collectivist idea, this liberal worldview, everything that they believe, they imagine. Let's take, say, for instance, abortion. Right? There's a hot one. Well, in order for you to be pro-abortion, you have to imagine that the kid in the womb is not human. You have to imagine that. There's no, when you look at it, if these people are pro-science and all that sort of stuff, it's like, well, how do you look at these codes and you deny this human being personhood? How do you do that? You have to imagine that. Or even like if we could take the Democrats even back further than that, let's take it back to the 1800s. In order for Democrats to come to the conclusion and fight for this idea that black people are not human, well, what is that? That's not reasonable. That's imagination. You have to imagine that black people aren't human so you can make it legal to enslave them, right? So Democrats have been doing this for a long time. Or let's take it to gender issues. You got to imagine that there's like 56 different genders. There's no scientific evidence that shows that there is, and it's unreasonable. You have to imagine that a man can change into a woman. You have to imagine, like, when you make money, you got to imagine that some of your money belongs to me. That's all imagination. There's no reason to it. So everything about them is imagination land. And that's where you have to communicate with them. And that's what I've been trying to say. It's like, look, we got a lot of conservatives out there think that they're going to beat them down with their amazing intellect. It's like, yeah, your intellect is amazing, but they don't understand what you're saying. They don't speak that language. Everything about them is imagination. So we need imaginative vehicles to connect with them. That's why we need to be, investing in entertainment. I mean, even the liberals know that. Even Obama, he's done with his presidency. What's he doing? He's starting a production company with Netflix, and he's going to use that. Higher ground productions. Hey man, and even that, man, they got to imagine that their worldview is the higher ground, because these are some low road people. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, but they're going to do that, and they're going to use that entertainment element to promote more of their mind rot in the culture. And I'm like, conservatives, why aren't we doing that? Why aren't we using the vehicle of imagination to creatively promote sanity against their efforts to creatively promote insanity?
Well, it seems like you do. Like you definitely take that up. You play music, you write, you do a lot of that stuff.
I'm trying to, man, but it's difficult because, you know, I mean, I don't want to give the sob story again, but when you're choked off from your audience, it's very difficult to grow support. And also when people see stuff like that happening to you, especially like in the the conservatives that are in the entertainment industry, they stay quiet and they don't want to do anything. They don't want to get blacklisted, and I mean, they've seen how they made an example out of me. And I never even claimed, you know, to be an actor or anything like that. I'm not SAG or AFTRA or anything like that, you know, even though I've been in movies and whatnot. But that in itself is like, you know, that's a no-no, man. It's like, wait a minute, you're not SAG or AFTRA, you're not in the union. Oh, you can't do that. We can't have this person showing that there's another way around the Hollywood system, right? So I got kneecapped basically. And but yeah, man, I mean, thank you for seeing my efforts in that, because that is what I'm trying to do. And I want to build an army of artists for the kingdom. You know, let's get out there and just rock the gospel, man. Just make really compelling and awesome productions, whether it's music or teleplays, movies, whichever, and get out there and promote truth.
Sure.
With style and guts.
Sure. Can you kind of list off all your stuff real quick before we wrap up?
Well, thanks, man. My website is bronzeserpentmedia.com. Just think John 3:14 through 16. And the productions I have on there are my commentaries, like the Zoloft, you know, my place for chuckle therapy for when conservatives are getting down with how crazy liberals are acting in the culture. And then I have the Zopium Den. That's my anti-fuddy-duddy Bible study. And I'm trying to, you know, build productions like Sinisterbia. Sinisterbia is kind of like a Twilight Zone, parody of you know, how the left is kind of trying to drag, you know, everything that they believe is just like Twilight Zone, man. It's like, it's a shame that we don't, you know, have productions to show that. And then of course there's my music project, 20 Pound Sledge, and it's dirty sound, clean message. You know, it's just, you know, heavy American rock and roll, man. And you know, we just, you know, we throw down with with a gospel message.
Dirty sound, clean message. I like that. That's a clever word. Clever wordplay.
Thank you.
Well, I have to reteach myself how to use my computer tonight, since I just completely wiped it like 2 days ago and reinstalled it. So I got to call off for the rest of the night and work on this. But thank you so much for coming on. I've enjoyed your content for a long time.
Right on, man. Thank you. Godspeed.
God bless. Have a good night.
All right, man.